Your culture.
Yeah.
You got your intro already, and then
That's true.
you could start.
Make sure.
Alright, cool.
Yeah.
I'm rolling.
Rolling?
Yeah.
Start on top. So I'm gonna start with saying my name, Latif, from Wisdom Fashion House, and today we're here on behalf of the collab I'm doing with MeToo. Me and Rasheeda are doing, called Disrupt Rape Culture. And for that, we wanted to drop some content for people to relate to and have like an open discussion on what we think rape culture is. And when I say what we think, I'm saying there's no true definition, you know. So today, I wanted to kind of expound and share perspectives, share stories on what that means to us. And just to pivot off that, you know, rape culture has been a campaign we've been running in Wisdom since 2016. And, you know, originally the brand Wisdom, we like to play it non-traditionally to pivot off of not being PC and also to avoid the spotlight, the trend, because I feel trends last, you know, for 2 seconds and it's on to the next thing. In order to avoid that, we like to stay true to our foundation, what we believe in, our own morality. And with ERC, it was us saying, you know, take this taboo topic in society that is, you know, not spoken about properly or disregarded or just swept under the rug, and to wear it directly on your shirt and to make people feel, you know, to shift their perspective immediately. And I feel like that's what fashion is, a billboard to shift, to tell whatever story you want to tell. But to start it up, you know, what is rape culture? I just want to ask everybody that, and I'll start with you.
So this topic is really important to me. I've been affected by this culture, as everyone else has, whether it's directly or not. And I, in my opinion, believe that we are not having a very productive conversation as a society about this topic. And it was important for me, for us to get together and have a conversation with citizen people and to talk about what we feel rape culture is and how are we affected by it. And my belief is that we're not discussing rape culture as a crime. I think we're discussing rape as some type of normalcy that we kind of go through. You might hit it, you might not, and it doesn't really aid a survivor. It doesn't aid the topic, it doesn't move us along as a society. It creates gender wars, and there is no specific image of a rapist, of a molester. Men, women, children are committing this crime. Men, women, and children are the survivors of this crime. And I think what we need to do as a society is start talking about it in relation to other crimes, right? Because rape is a robbery. It's a robbery of our bodies, of our spirits, and we're not discussing it that way. I believe that what makes it hard for us as a society to discuss is close relation to sex. And sex being something that we do enjoy, when we approve, when we want it. And I think because it's so closely related to that, because it's a robbery of body, people don't believe it to be something that is painful, something that is harmful, something that really causes conflict in your mind as you evolve from the act. And I think that's how we struggle as a society. And we are all perpetuating this thought, and it's not helpful. It's not moving us along. It's not creating any unity. And so I'm happy to be here to discuss it because I study this topic, and I feel like I have something to offer in this conversation.
Well, like I said, I always felt like I was trying to figure out kind of like the question or answer for rape culture. I've had friends who's been, you know, in situations. I've dated girls who've been in situations, so it's just like with that, I always try to understand, like, okay, so what is it from their perspective, and me trying to understand it, me trying to do better as a man, even with my friends, like, how can I and the rest of my homies do better moving forward for people who have been affected and people who haven't been affected? How can we also promote and kind of show, like, the homies, what can we do to avoid these situations? What can we do to not even be a part of, you know what I mean, break culture, or trying to figure out how can we move forward on that? Because I have too many friends, too many loved ones who are affected. It's like, that's, to me, I always say, like, that's not fair. So something has to be worked on. Like you said, it's not being talked about in a serious, like a crime. You know? And first thing I think was like, it's a crime. You talk, you know what I mean? Me talking to my friends, I was like, they're shell shocked and stuff going on. So I'm like, yeah, that's not fair. So, and even now, it's still like a conversation. I'm like, what can be done? How can it be avoided? Also, what is it? How can we really have conversations, even for people younger than me, like me talking to my younger cousins and my younger homies, like, how, you know, I want to make sure I give them the same information I'm trying to learn now. So we can all do better moving forward, so the future generations can move better. This is a normal conversation for everybody, you know, no matter where you stand, and you know what I mean, for
Yeah, I'm just like listening to both of y'all speak, and so many new things are coming to mind, and so many harder memories are coming to mind, and thinking about like how society and culture responds to just the word rape alone. And not to dive in too deeply this early, but it's what came to my mind. I remember after I made the call that this had happened, and I called for help. I remember like 4 male officers showing up, and I'm like, that alone right there is the problem already. And I remember the one female officer who drove me to the hospital, you know, making light conversation with words of, you know, like, oh, you know, this happens a lot, and you know, you're like in shell shock, so you don't want to actually comprehend that that's what someone just said to you, and just being completely lost for words, and her continuing and saying, you know, but like, this happens all the time, and some girls just like, you know, it's what they're wearing, and I'm just so sick of hearing that, like, it's what they're wearing, and thinking about how your brand may make men feel uncomfortable because they're aware of that it is talked about mostly of men assaulting women, and like there is so many different cases and there's so many different things happening, and I think that discomfort is definitely good, and that's why I think it's so important that you're doing what you're doing, because we're making people, some people may feel uncomfortable, some people might feel empowered, like, yes, like, let's end this, let's end the bullshit responses, the you know, like, let's end the silly words of how someone was dressed, or, you know, whatever, just like brushing it off because it happens to everyone. And so now I guess my mind is like, I don't know how I could define, you know, rape culture. All I know is experience, but I know that, yeah, it's time to make people uncomfortable and have these conversations so that they can heal and be empowered. And so I think today I'm excited to talk about healing and understanding. Yeah.
Could you imagine though that someone was in an ambulance after getting shot, and the EMT guy's like, oh, this happens all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Or they're handcuffed to the shit.
And they're like, what did you do?
Yeah.
What were you wearing? How did you get shot?
Yeah.
Like, I was minding my
Yeah. Your words robbery though really hit, like, heavy. Robbery was like robbery of self, of spirit, like you really, it is so deep.
It dulls the spirit, because you can tell something's there.
Yeah.
Something's bothering, something's troubling you, and it's like, how you get that back? You can't get that back.
Yeah.
It's almost like now you gotta rediscover.
It'll always exist. Right. Exactly. But how do we elevate from that?
It is the worst kind
of
robbery. And I say that because I've been robbed in all these different ways. Like someone has taken my money, someone has taken my clothes, someone has taken my time. So, you know, it definitely has superseded all of those in trauma.
In trauma responses.
Yeah.
And some people just, their behavior changes throughout life because this happened to them at the 5 years old, 8 years old, and now they're doing things similar to what their oppressor did to them. And they're so far gone that you can't, now you remind them, did this happen as a kid, and they remember, and they're like breaking down now, because those, you just buried under it. It messes you. We related to people with those experiences. So, and we see them, and it hurts us how we see them today. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that happened.
It's because of those conversations that didn't happen until they're adults. Because we're not having it like with children. Like you said before, children are also like both victims, but at the same time, like children are doing it. You know, so I think for me, when I think about just rape culture and like normalizing it, we don't have these normal discussions like with our families and stuff like that. So it's normalized in like the media and stuff that we maybe see, or like the things that our friends are talking about, but not necessarily us protecting, you know, children from ill. And maybe it's because I work with children now too, and like having a survivor, I'm very protective, and I look for certain signs that I see. And it's also triggering in a way though too, because I'm like, am I just like noticing this because I'm a survivor, or am I like hyper aware? Just so that, I don't know.
And should we be? Yes. Are we always? Absolutely. Everywhere we go. Alone. Like anywhere. All the time. It's crazy. That's crazy.
Even because that thought is something you think. Like when you're looking at children and like, they don't have to experience this. You think that, like, why do I have to even, you know, that be a concept? It is what it is. It becomes that, all right, well, you know, you gotta have that awareness. But
I think, you know, one thing that interests me, and you know, when I first met Latif and the movement, you know, I'm really into, even from what I do as a stylist and everything like that, I'm really tapped into the way things used to be in the past, and you know, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I like to compare a lot of things with, you know, the new generation, new times. And to be honest with you, I think there's a loss of respect in the world right now. When I was coming up, you know, I had my grandmother, I had my mother, you know, I had my sister, and I've always felt like I was the protector. You know what I'm saying? My grandmother taught me to always look after my mother and my sister. You know what I'm saying? Like, more than anything in the world. You know what I'm saying? So my respect for women has always been in the back of my head. I always hear my grandmother saying it. You know what I'm saying? So I look at a lot of males, you know, there's a loss of respect. You know what I'm saying? And playing into the way social media and the way things are now, I feel like the reason why it's not being spoke about or the way it's being looked at is because the way social media portrays sex. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like it's normal. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like back in the day, you know, when you looked at a rape crime, I felt like it was taken more seriously back in, you know, in the day. So let's say, you know, your name and everything got put in the newspaper. Now we don't have that anymore. You don't know who's walking the street, who did what. I feel like there's a lost respect out here because nobody, like, it's not being taken seriously. So when, you know, I looked at what the movement that Latif has, you know, had brought up, I was like, bro, like, I look at my little cousins, you know, my little male cousins who are growing up in the world, and they're so tapped in with social media, you know what I'm saying? And they watching everything that's being, you know, said and was put on social media. I'm just like, dang, I just hope that, even though I know my cousins and, you know, my older cousins who, you know, their mothers and things, I teach them respect. I just hope that the same level of respect that they're being taught at home is also being talked about through social media, because I feel like there's a more connection through social media than what's going on at home. You know what I'm saying?
For
So
sure.
it does suck to know that things like this aren't being talked about. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like as my place to be able to even whatever I can do, because you know I do have my little cousins that follow everything I do, everything I say, everything they watch me on social media. So I feel like whatever I can say or throw out there will be, you know, the smallest voice of being able to say something that might be able to capture someone. You know what I'm saying?
Because that's one of the strongest points of views and reasons why I started Wisdom. And so day one, 2016 was 2010 was because of bringing substance. It was like, all right, as I see, I have a great marketing perspective and eye. I know what works, what doesn't when it comes to pop culture or whatever you want to call it. And that's the one thing I was like, oh, when you do approach things, this is the word conscious rapper.
Right.
You know, and when you do approach things with your own perspective, that also is like beneficial to the people around you, beneficial to your community, empowering. It depends. It gets like, okay, boy, it's like side comes out and you categorize it. So that's always been the calculation. Like, how do I do that while still showing? And that's what Wisdom has become. It's more like I want to be able to give substance in a world of social media where it's almost zero substance. It's like I'm gonna put some kind of substance out there.
Yeah.
People gonna, whether you look at it face value and feel like this, which is what I spoke about, was one of the most reoccurring statements I get, and it always comes from my peers older than me, or my OGs, you could call them, is when I say, you know, look at my brand, look at Rape Culture, like, I love the brand, that's gonna be challenging right there. And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, I wouldn't have did that. And I'm like, and I always like, why is this? You know, I want to be able to look up to an older dude, and like an OG. I never had an OG, so I want always to find that person in my life. But I didn't have my father, so that's kind of just normal. And as I look those ways, I always was like, okay, why is this man telling me this? What's his perspective behind it? I always had to go back in and just evaluate what he said and why he said it. And that's what I would get a lot. And that became one of my purposes behind it. It was like, how do I shift his perspective? That dude who's projecting his fear onto me, as in, yo, if you put that on and say the wrong thing, now you're dealing with this community and that community. And it's like, to me, I couldn't hear that because it's transparency to me. Because I want to speak about this. I have the same experience similar to you. Is I got 5 sisters. I got my mom. My mom ran the house as one of these kids. Like I said, didn't have my father. So protection is just in me. I'm always be in that seat, or I'm always hear that voice coming from myself. So for me, I always wanted to, this is just who I am. Right. So when people told me that, it was like, I don't get what you like, be yourself. It just got me in the seat of what it would look like if you could be yourself. That dude telling me that could say how he truly is. If who you truly are is with aligns with whatever, put it on. Because it's just sparking and changing perspective of somebody. And I wanted to, that's what me and Rasheeda were keen about with this collection, was making it feel more welcoming to people who felt like, oh, I don't want to say Rape Culture, I don't want to say the wrong thing, I don't want to offend anybody. It's like, you're welcome to ask questions, you're welcome to not know. Like how we started this, we didn't know nothing. We said that at the beginning, we're like, okay, what is Rape Culture? There's no explanation. So that's what one of the goals is to make people feel like it's okay not to know. Just talk. Because what the just talk comes from that first conversation at home. Yo, Mom, I met this girl, this happened. What am I supposed to do? Dad, I met this girl, this happened. Mom, I met this guy, what happened? Whatever it is, it's like those conversations mean a lot. Because now you got a different perspective going back. Now you're like, oh, my mom said it like this, you've been through this perspective. And, you know, I'm more comfortable now, rather than this is that moment in my life where it defines if I'm a man or not. Because a lot of the first times with, you know, having sex, that's kind of on your mind. You're like, it's going to be if I'm alpha or I'm not, or like whatever it is, you don't know. So, yeah, that's one of the things I think we got to simply say is it's okay not to know.
You said so many things, right? But in business, people are going to always shy away from political and personal views because business is about generating money. So even in my business, people would be like, oh, I'm not going to talk about Black Lives Mattering. I'm not going to, get political. You're in the business of cannabis and you need to sell products. There is no demographic, so you need to make sure that it's welcoming to all races, all genders, right? And so people will say, oh, stay away from rape culture because it's political. It shouldn't be because it's a crime. And crime is crime. But it has become very political because it has turned into a gender war where women are fighting men in very high places that could risk losing their money. And then it becomes this huge fight where it's this regular, relatable crime that we don't need to fight over. We just need to get the criminals off the street, rehab them. That's prison system is another topic. Rehab them. Most of them are victims of it too. And figure out a way for us to coexist without abusing the joy of sex. Because that's what we're doing, we're abusing it. Sex is not even just for joy, sex is also for life. And it has turned into this weapon that people are using to feel better about themselves, to use their authority. They're weaponizing it. And
Rapist?
yes.
Okay.
And so you go back to it's just not being dealt with properly. But you're not going to get away from those people who don't want to talk about it in business. But an artist is a person who talks about what's going on around them. That's true art. Being fearless.
Right, comfortability.
Yeah.
Being able to be free.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing. People say that all the time. Oh, don't talk about that. But why not? We have to. We need to.
It starts the conversation.
Yeah.
When we see in the shirts, before when I was still in high school, it was like, oh, me and my homie saw the shirt, was like, in rape culture, that started the conversation with us in high school. We about to go to college, and that was an important conversation for us to even think about. We want to be on our own, we got to make decisions, you have to be a man, but how do you be a man without going to stuff, or, you know what I mean, just protecting, how you be a protector. And I feel like because of that, it's done so much to kind of start this conversation where it's not a normal thing to have these conversations, but people are starting to. It's like even when me and my homies, I talk about it, I don't care. Like we're going to discuss it, I don't care if we don't feel uncomfortable. Because we've heard too many stories, I have too many, friends, family who are just like, yeah, this is not going to be a continuous thing. So we're going to have this conversation even if you feel uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable. Even having a conversation with my friends, it's comfortable for me. I'm like, yo, talk. Let's you know what I mean? Let's discuss this. If I don't know nothing about it, I'm gonna ask questions. If I'm trying to understand, because like I was saying, being raised, about women, we want to be a protector. As a man, that's our. I don't want to say that's inherently our goal, but that's inherently our goal, really. Like we're being raised to protect mom, your sister, your cousins, whoever, friends, whoever it might be. So why wouldn't you be a protector through and through? I want in rape culture to protect not just my people, your people, anybody's people. You feel me? Because it's a crime. Just like you said with robbery. Like I don't want one of my homies to go out and get shot because he had the wrong thing. Same, you know what I mean? It's the exact same thing. So
The crazy thing that there is no such thing, right? Well, I guess gang stuff, but still. But generally, they won't do that to a victim of. You won't get to the hospital or get interrogated at the precinct. Why were you wearing pink? And you got shot. Like, how is that fair to a person who just survived a crime?
Yeah, I remember I was firsthand, one of my friends was going through something, so I made sure they were straight. The police came and they were very males, I felt like they weren't being concerned about the situation. Very aggressive, very and I even had to talk to them. I was like, this is very a very delicate situation. Like, we're the only males in here. We have to make sure it's handled correctly because it's not just as simple as, all right, give me a name, okay, cool. You know what I mean? You just can't come through interrogating like that. This is a mental shock. This is a slow process. This isn't it's not even just a simple crime as, they took some money from me. That might be a mental shock, but you can get over it. This is a mental shock that can probably affect this person for years or for the rest of their life, and affect their other relationships with friends or with other partners in general for the rest of their life. So, and it starts even in that moment as how someone you want to call to help, you know what I mean, to help you out, and they're acting like you know what I mean, like, oh, you caused it, this and the third, like, you want to feel a lot of disconnection. You're not going to have a conversation. And I felt like just seeing that firsthand, how, you know what I mean, how they were just handling the situation, I was like, yeah, that's not, I'm not a police officer, I'm not going to do your job, but that didn't feel right. It didn't seem like that's how the situation should be handled, and by no means. So, no, this is definitely to normalize it in all groups, ages, races, locations, no matter where. This is a conversation that needs to be held and thought about until it's normal, until it's second nature, until it's not weird or feel awkward to be like, oh, I don't want to bring that up, I don't want to wear a shirt. You shouldn't feel awkward about it. You should, like you say, either it should empower you or you should wear it to empower somebody else. Type of thing.
And you know, that's even when you pulled back and said, you know, you were in high school when ERC was, you know, you seen it, and that right there already was like really cool, because I'm like, that was the beginning concept. It's like in school or in, you know, being young and going to parties with your friends. You know, my mindset was always different. It's like, why do I think like this? Everyone thinks like this, and it was always like, you know, one of the biggest things as a kid was we go to parties, and that's one of the topics in the car. Like, yo, you gotta get a girl tonight. Like, that's like the conversation. And to me, it's like, you know, we go to these houses, we meet these people. I'm like, it's okay to have friends. It's okay to talk to people and not have that goal in your head by the end of the night. Something has to happen. It doesn't have to happen. And I always was in that seat, like, I want to be able to tell that kid or me where I was 16 in high school, like, you're good, stay where you're at. It doesn't make you any less of anything else if you don't feel that same way. That's another, that little thing is the big thing. And so, you know, hear that is really cool. And I think that, you know, it just takes what we said, conversation, keep moving forward. And to pivot, I know we kind of touched on, would you say we touched on where we at as a society with rape culture? And
A little bit.
say we did, yeah.
Think about action too, like taking action. Like if they're at parties and you know, it's like having those conversations in the car that I'm sure, you know, like so many people had, and like friends of mine had in high school and everyone had, and just I think ways to take action aside as well from like having conversations, like when seeing like your friend or someone like leaving with someone who is like having trouble walking or clearly like very out of it, like also like speaking up and just like checking in, like, are you good? And like, are they good? And just being able to be the protector and just looking out. But yeah, I thought of that. Trigger warnings too, like that. I think that it's kind of not, I don't know if cool is the right word, but it's like, it's nice that that's a thing now. Like in the days of like social media and followers and like the younger generation, just that's all they know. I think it's like nice that there's a direction of trigger warning, like before you, and that goes in so many directions. So many.
Like that a little bit more.
Yeah. You
I think
know,
society is just now paying attention to mental health.
Yeah.
And I think because
Finally.
of that,
Finally. And that gets abused too. Like, so,
but so because of that, we're able to now talk about our triggers.
Yeah.
But
Finally.
traumas come from everywhere, all around us. The good thing is that we are just a little bit more comfortable talking about our triggers, despite where the trigger came from, the source of it. But the conversation about rape itself is just not where it needs to be. It's just too much pushback and too many fears and finger pointing and some of it not good, but some of it understandable. But I mean, for me, I would love to see a society that is more welcoming to survivors. I don't believe I am a feminist, so I don't care about a particular side.
Right.
What I care about is people feeling protected and feeling safe enough to speak their truth. And I just know that
And heard.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah, and I just know that this crime is affecting everyone, even people who have not experienced it directly. I see people, I'm in a family who struggles with dealing with another person in it. And so it is even hard to be the person looking at the person who has survived it. So we're all related to this topic. Without all the finger pointing, I think we get a little bit closer to resolve when it comes to the victims feeling comfortable. Unfortunately, I don't think the crime itself is going to disappear because there is no crime in the history of crimes that has disappeared. So
It's still going
it's
on.
not going to
It's still
disappear.
going on.
Yeah, crime is going to be crime, you know. But I do think we can deal with the survivors of this particular crime in a much better way, just like we deal with the survivors of other crimes in a very human way. Yeah. But again, I think it's because it's close relation to sex that I think we and this is also political at this point, but mostly because it's close relation to sex, I think that idea that we must have enjoyed it at some point, or we must have provoked it, or those things they exist because of this close relation to sex, I think.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because there is no enjoyable moment of it, of being robbed. There's no enjoyable moment of being robbed. It could never possibly be. I don't know anyone who had fun getting robbed. So it's sad that society has turned it into that and questions that now. But this is where we are. So I would love to be in a part of a society that really respects the survivors of this crime. I would really love to see that in my time. Feel like, wow, we can now out in the open have a discussion without anyone feeling uncomfortable or feeling attacked, and really talk about it. I would love that, especially from law enforcement, because those are supposed to be the first ones on the scene, right? And so, and we're so affected.
They need a lot of conversations.
Well, so many times.
Where do we begin? Exactly.
Where do you begin?
For sure.
You know, we're such an impressionable species, right? So if something happens to you, the first thing that happens after whatever happened, you will be the most impressed by it. So if someone talks to you right after you've been victimized and questions whether you caused it, you're not going to feel comfortable to talk to the next person. Because you are most impressed by that moment.
That's a good point.
And how crazy, how are we going to survive that?
But that's how this system is structured. Crime you commit, and the next thing is interrogated by the police. So it's like, I'm going to tell you did this, your friend told us you did this, what you going to say?
Yeah, but that's the person who committed the crime.
And then your bag is searched when you go in the police car. But I called you. Right? I don't get it.
That's how the thought pattern is. They look at things still from that. They're honestly treating the survivor like the criminal. That's what it is.
And like I said, I feel like it should be discussed in all aspects, from a female perspective and from a male perspective. Because you do got to remember, you do have males out here who've been raped as well from an older teacher or an older sibling. I have not personally been raped before, but I do remember a point in my life where, I'm not going to say any names, but I had a cousin who used to, I think for many, used to forget that I was her cousin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to sit there and say, like, this, it was weird.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was really weird. Like, the more and more I think about, like, yo, I was like 10. You know what I'm saying? And I had an older cousin. I don't know. We weren't like, you know how you have, like, your first cousin and your second cousin. This was like a cousin from like my mother's cousin. This was like her daughter. But still, all in all, it was weird.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
literally felt
Yeah,
that.
I'm like, this is not like, this wasn't supposed
Your
to be
body
happening. It was
knows.
weird. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like in
We
all
didn't know.
aspects, all of this conversation needs to be spoken about in all aspects. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like there's a lot of conversations, a lot of stories out there from everyone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just don't know how to come out and say, I remember when that happened to me. You know what I'm saying? Or
That welcome.
and
no one feels welcome.
exactly.
That's the part.
Exactly.
And if we shift the conversation to it being a crime, I think survivors will feel more comfortable coming
Exactly.
out. And you see
Yeah.
TV, right? You'll see all these political campaigns and women coming forward. And they're like, why are you waiting until now?
Yeah.
Because society doesn't make us feel comfortable to
Yeah,
tell
because
the day
it
happens.
doesn't
That's
usually
why.
work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even. Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily.
Yeah,
We're talking
it's-
about it in like the
Yeah.
grand scheme, but the people that's the closest to you, like how do you respond to that?
Yeah.
Like you said with your friends, like you having those conversations, like how are you gonna tell your mother or somebody else and
Yeah.
they react in a certain way? That can silence somebody for life.
Right. Yeah. And those women who come forward, I'm like, kudos to them. That is super scary
Yeah.
to say that out loud. And then you're saying you're doubting their integrity. You know?
Or they don't stand a chance.
They-
And, like they don't get a chance to speak.
Yeah, yeah. So
In
it's
court.
a society, I would love to see a society where me coming forward 10 years after it happened is okay. Yeah, because that would be moving forward.
And so,
It sucks that we live in a world now where it takes like a certain somebody or a certain public figure or something to make something cool. It sucks.
Or relevant.
Yeah,
Well,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So,
Exactly.
I mean, I hate to say this, but I mean, I would like to see more, I don't know, maybe more influencers, more, because the way the new age of
Substance,
kids, the way,
something.
because the
Depth.
people that they're looking up to aren't what maybe we used to look up to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just telling one of my friends, I was like, yo, heroes these days are totally different.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, my hero was like my grandfather, like my pops, you know, the hustler around the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Now the heroes is like the rappers or who they posting or loving hip hop or who shaving. Like, that's the heroes. Like, you know, the girl who just got the new Phantom truck with the Rolex. Like, those
Yeah.
are, like, those are not real heroes.
Shit.
Which is like, how can we be better? How can we be better?
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we need more. We gotta start setting the tone for the new age of role models.
Please.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I get a kick out of when I go home to New Orleans and my older cousin is like, Chris, like your younger cousin Donovan looks up to you. So for me personally,
yeah.
for me personally, now I really watch what I say on social media,
Yeah.
what I post on social media, because
Yeah.
I know more than anything in the world, I have a little cousin out there that's watching everything I do, because guess what? He doesn't have a father. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have a pops. So my
You're his
cousin-
influencer.
Right. So
You're his
so if he's sitting there looking at everything I do, I feel like my role as an older cousin is to set that tone. So when I'm doing things, I have a lot of female best friends who I'm showing the new age of how one of my friends told me really today, he was like, man, you always have some really nice women with you. I was like, bro, those are my best friends and I love them to death. You know what I'm saying?
Great response.
I take care of my female best friends. We look out for each other, and the conversations for both of us make sense because not only do I help them, but they help me as well. So my respect goes back to the way I was raised. The love I have for my mother, the love I have for my sister, the love I have for my best female friends. You know what I'm saying? So now my job as a best friend is to show my male best friends, like, bro,
This is it.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm setting that tone for, like, bro, no, this is a whole nother respect over here, bro. Like, I'm taking care of my female best friend. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got much love for them. Trust and believe, when we out and about, I'm making sure they're good.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm looking out for them. Anybody up on them stupid? No, I got them. They are like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just that comfort of being a male. Like, I feel like more males need to start setting that tone, especially for those males who are in those circles who play as the big dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? While the whole clique of your homies talking crazy, don't be afraid to be like, y'all are tripping.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all sitting there like trying to holler at this, like, come on, bro. Like,
Let her breathe.
you see what I'm saying?
Because it's so crazy because it's the same perspective I get. Because I have a lot of women best friends, close friends. That's it.
Right.
People were like, I'm like, no, bro, that's my friend.
Exactly.
And it's like, it's okay to have a friend like us,
Right.
opposite gender. I think that's one of the biggest things, just what community is how we speak, how we feel. And we don't, that's what I'm saying, it goes back to that, how many girls you get in the night mentality. It's like, I'm
Like
just here to.
they've associated sex with manhood.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
And how many
Exactly.
girls you get is directly.
And they also associated women with just sex. So it's just like, that's all you're thinking. What was the video of somebody that was like, can't have no female friends? Because I'm like, that's so bizarre.
so
It was like,
But
it was an old clip, but I remember seeing it was like that, and he was stuck on that point. Like, no,
It was Steve Harvey.
It was, it was Steve Harvey.
really?
And I was like, this dude was bizarre.
Yeah, Steve Harvey said that.
He said some strange things before.
But I don't think he would say that, but it was just crazy that he was like, dead serious.
Yeah.
Like, I can't have female best friends.
So that's the good, part of being, I feel the same way as a role model. I'm like, somebody watching me. And even when those thoughts may get loud, I'm like, oh, I know. Like, I know where I'm walking. That
Because
doesn't
the
make sense.
respect.
Yeah.
As a man, you have a respect for women.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because the way you were raised.
Yeah.
And like I say, it sucks that a lot of these younger men are coming up not with a male figure in their life, coming up with their mothers not sending off them into the world without that comfort of like, look, at the end of the day, we are what you got. You can depend on us. You don't have to depend on that out there. You know what I'm saying? So it just needs to be spoken about more. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, like I said, it has to start with the future, the newer, younger generation, because guess what? They are the future. You know what I'm saying? So what we're going to have to do is, as survivors, as influencers, we got to reach out to them. Because they're coming, we got to share these stories with them to let them know how. That's the way these topics are going to start coming up in the future. You know what I'm saying? You know,
I feel that
like,
perspective. Because every time we lose, like I say, your OGs, your ancestors, or people that we grew up with watching in films, like John Witherspoon or whoever else. Like, we lose a lot of people recently too. And always like, these people were great in what they did and what they meant to people watching them. And it always goes, oh wait, we're that right now.
We are that, exactly.
So it's really like, it's not a lot on your shoulders, but it's like, okay, remember what you're doing.
right, the survivors, talking to the younger women coming up, letting them know, like, I went through this, and it's, they're sharing that story. But the younger one, the new younger kids are more smarter than anything in the world. I mean, they're starting at 4. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? They're gonna know how to use that cell phone, that iPhone by 6. I have a little cousin that's 7, and he stays in his iPad. He knows that iPad more than he knows anything in the world at 7.
And it's a lot they're taking in.
Exactly.
That's the crazy part about all of it. They're taking in so much, and you're not going to be there to see everything that they're taking in.
We can't filter it. We can't filter it.
So, yeah.
We have to start with them. We have to start with them. So we start this conversation and this awareness of, like you said, ending rape culture. We got to start to the youth.
I like the fact that you brought up earlier, saying the whole like, I remember hearing growing up, like, oh, how many girlfriends you have now, stuff like that. I remember as a kid, I feel like that was weird. Like, why should you, like, why do you, this isn't an object, this isn't a game, who am I trying to impress? type of thing, why I would go that route, because I'm really close to my mother. I feel like I get a lot of my ideals and everything from my mother. I'm really close to my father too, but definitely always respect my mother, respect my auntie, and respect like my cousins. Growing up like I'm like, I wouldn't want no one to talk about my mom like, oh, how many girlfriends you got?
Right.
And your sisters included. You know what I mean? That count. Or your mother's included, or your cousin included. You don't want no one to mention that. And then even with that, I feel like a lot of people, a lot of people think that and go, oh, it's something small, whatever.
It's
If you
normalized.
grow up thinking that it's gonna grow to more, it starts young.
Yeah.
And me, I work at elementary school, so I see it. I was like, I've been working there for 6 years. So I have students who are about to be in high school now. And I was like, it starts young. Like you say, we can't filter everything. And I can't be there with my students from elementary school going into high school. I gotta trust that what you learn through me, what you learn through going through it is going to, it has to, because you don't want to start, even the small jokes, even the small little thing, how many girlfriends you have, like this and the third, that sticks in people's heads, that's goals. So now as a grown man, you're thinking, all right, how many girlfriends can I have? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even what you were saying earlier about men using sex as a way to get manhood. In my opinion, that's not how you achieve manhood. That's not how you about to become a man. That's not how you be a man. You feel me? Like, it's not through that. And I feel like,
Definitely not.
and with
Exactly.
right. And with the mentality of grown men asking a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, 6-year-old how many girlfriends you have, now in your brain, you're sticking with, that's what becomes a man. That's what a man. That's what a man is. That's what a man does, and that's not.
What you just said.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
We are impressionable,
Yeah.
especially children. That's why they repeat everything we say. Their first words is always bad, because we done said cursed in front of them, and now that's their first word. But the way I figure social media, although I understand its effects and its power, the way I figure it is, we are living in a time where technology just evolved.
Right.
Whereas our parents lived in a time where technology evolved too, and their parents did as well. And whatever generation, I don't know which one, where TV was the newest thing,
Right.
we all got stuck in front of a TV too, playing games and doing all these things, and our parents couldn't control everything we were absorbing.
Right.
Even if we went outside. It was school, it was shows on TV, it was game systems, because those have subliminals too.
Yeah.
And being outside with your friends. It was all, we were impressed by so many different things. And so all we can do is really teach our children and teach our nieces and nephews what the truths are.
Yeah.
Because we can't avoid technology evolving.
No.
It's going to evolve even more. And those kids who are growing up in front of iPads and cell phones, they're going to probably grow up and some new thing is going to be something, and then their kids are going to be on it, and it's going to be this continuation of evolution that we can't control. And so there's no difference. Yes, social media is more powerful where we can get information faster, but it's no different from when we were sitting in front of the TV watching shows and playing Nintendo and Sega, because listen, that's all we did. That's all I did, So it's no different. The only thing is that, and it's not even a difference from role models either, if you think about it, because yes, social media has all these rappers now, and you can become a hit off of videos. Back in the days, brands, companies use celebrities to advertise cigarettes and to advertise stuff. We just didn't get a glimpse of their personal life. We just couldn't follow them and see that they bought a Rolls Royce and see how many people they got pregnant. And so we couldn't see all of that extra stuff that we can see now through social media. But literally, it's the same. Life is just repeating itself, just on a different scale. And how much we put it on a pedestal depends on us. That depends on us. You hear these people rapping about stupid stuff and girls doing all this stuff on social media, and there's just a lot of stuff happening. But we can filter it. We can filter it. It really is up to us. And there are so many artists who use their platforms to do amazing things. And we could be those people, like you guys was just saying. We could just be those people. And we'll be just shuffled in a deck because for the most part there's going to be artists and people who are taking advantage of society and reaping reward from bad images. And we can't run from that. That's just a part of the game. It's like a monopoly board. It's a part of it. It really is.
Well, I think that's a good place to end. I think that.
Actually, there's something else to say.
Perfect.
I would love to say,
Yeah.
if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just thinking about social media and just thinking about like the power that we do have. And like as a photographer, I know a female photographer, especially with film, I think it's like very important to show women really feeling empowered and sexy and nude and like this less provocative and more soft and honest and like strength. And with social media, because there is so much bullshit, I think it's great, as you said, to use that platform like for good and to make sure that the words we're sharing and the things we're saying on our live or whoever does live, I don't think anyone who does that, but like I guess what I'm trying to say is it feels really good for me as a survivor. Like I just really want to make sure the healing aspect was mentioned, that for me, like through creating, through photographing women, through providing the safe space, through like letting them know that they can be comfortable and not be ashamed of their bodies, and even after these things have happened to myself or other women, like it's still so incredibly healing to embrace your body and reclaim your body through what you wear, through the things that people question you and tell you, like that's why this situation maybe could have come to you. It's like I think it's so important that if we're having these conversations, we're also through images and through poetry, like sharing how to reclaim your power through your sexuality, through your sensuality, through all of these things. So I just think it's so important to also do that.
That's a great perspective.
Because we do hold the power. We hold the power.
And I think that's dope for people who don't understand to hear.
Yeah.
People will just run with, she's naked.
Yeah, it's like, this is for me.
Yeah, but
this is
what
for her.
Exactly. And that's something that we need to hear more to understand it. Because remember, at this point, a lot of men, we erasing that idea of that's all women are for. You know, like a lot of men have to erase that. And when it comes with that, she's naked, she this. Because that's how you're looking at it.
Yeah, it's not all about you.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
no, exactly.
Yeah. It's over-sexualization.
The healing, the healing's so important.
I like that. And then even if anybody wants to say any last things on how, of how, you know, they would like to see something change. I think we all touched on how we would like to see change, but it's to end it. You know?
Can I say something to what she said?
Yes.
Because that was really important to say.
Yeah.
To put it in another way, because I'm always trying to figure out a way to speak so that people can relate.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the key to being in understanding of each other.
Yeah, and vulnerable with each other.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Right? So, in robbery, the best thing that could possibly happen is that you get it back.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So
that's so beautiful.
So to figure out ways to create environments where talking about reclaiming what someone stole is a good thing.
Yeah. I think that's so crucial.
Yeah. I would have loved to get back a lot of the purses that were stolen from me. So, you know what I mean? It's a real thing, and people won't understand the levels of that. But to reclaim your body after someone violated it is powerful. And
Great. That was it right there. That was a great place to bridge it.
That was good.
Yeah.